Favorite stories from Collins English Library. The Pathfinders by Jane Homeshaw. Read by Rosalind Grant Robertson.
Επιμέλεια Γιώργος Πιτροπογιαννάκης.
The mutton birds. Every year, on the nights of the 26th and 27th of September, the mutton birds come to Tasmania in Australia. They never come on the 25th or the 28th. It's always the same 2 days every year. They make holes in the ground near the sea. The holes are going to be the homes for the young mutton birds. But there are no young at this time. After the homes are ready, the mutton birds go away again for a short time. But they come back on November the 19th every year. They come back because they're now going to have their young. In April, the mutton birds, young and old, are fat with many fish. It's cold in Tasmania now. Time to fly away to the top of the world and find the sun again. They fly across the Coral Sea, through Melanesia and Micronesia, to the Sea of Japan. In June, you can see millions of mutton birds at the top of the world in the Bering Sea between Siberia and Alaska. Then, at the end of July, they want to find the sun. They fly along the sea coasts of Canada in August. Then they go across the Pacific to Hawaii and Fiji. From there they fly back down to Tasmania again and land on the 26th and 27th of September. How do they find their way across the world? Do the old birds tell them the way? The green turtles. Ascension Island is far out in mid-Atlantic. It's 1,920 kilometers from the coast of Brazil. A long way, but one sea animal can find its way there. That sea animal is the green turtle. For a lot of the time, the green turtle lives around the rich fields of turtle grass under the sea near the coast of Brazil. But sometimes, every 2 or 3 years, it finds its way to Ascension Island. The green turtle is a big animal, perhaps 1 meter long and 1 meter across. In the sea, she's very fast, but on land she's very slow. On June nights, on Ascension Island, the turtles come out of the sea and walk up the coast onto dry land. It's a walk of perhaps 20 or 30 meters, but it's a very long walk for that big animal. Away from the waterline, she can stop. With her 4 big feet, she makes a warm hole in the ground. Then she puts the end of her body over the hole. Her young come out from her body. They're not little turtles now. They're still small round eggs, like little white balls. There are between 40 and 60 of them. After a time, all the eggs of the mother turtle are in the warm hole. She wheels her body round and begins her long, slow walk down to the sea again. She never sees her young. After 60 days, the young turtles come out of their eggs. They too find their way to the sea. After a long swim, they get to the rich turtle grass fields near the Brazilian coast. How do they know the way? Think about this. You're standing 2 kilometers from your house. How do you find your way home? You look around. You can see buildings and roads. You can say, "That's the cinema, and this road runs by my house." So you can go along the road and find your way home. Animals and birds can do that too. In July, seabirds in Germany fly along the river Weser. They look at the line of the river, and so they can find their way out to the North Sea. But after that, how do they know their way? On Ascension Island, there's a mountain 1,564 meters tall. Perhaps the turtles can see that mountain from the sea, 80 kilometers away. But Brazil isn't 80 kilometers from Ascension Island. It's 1,920 kilometers away. There's a lot of sea between Ascension Island and Brazil. How do those small turtles find their way through it? Finding their way. Sometimes we can find our way with the sun. Perhaps birds and animals do the same. You're standing in a field at 5 o'clock in the morning. Perhaps the field is near the town of Macapa in Brazil. The sky is still black with night, but morning is coming. You look over to the east of the sky. There's a little light there. After a time you can see the sun. It's coming up into the sky from the east. At 10 o'clock you're still in the field. Now the sun's a long way up in the sky. At midday the sun's over your head. At 6 o'clock in the evening the sun goes down behind the land in the west. Then it's black night again. Think about this. You're a long way from home and you want to get back there. Your house is in the west. You have a clock with you, so you know the time. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun is in the sky. Can you find your way home? The answer is yes. You look at the sun for a little time. It's going down the sky to the west. Your eye goes along the line of the sun to the west. Your home is in the west, so you can find your way home. Animals do that too. They don't have clocks like our clocks, but their bodies can tell them the time. These body clocks can say to the animals, "There's half a day more of daylight. The sun is up there, so home is over there." Their body clocks are never wrong. Sometimes the days are long and hot. Sometimes they're short and cold. But the body clocks of animals and birds are always right. Sometimes it rains and we don't see the sun all day. It's behind grey clouds, so we can't see it. Sunlight still comes through the clouds, but the clouds change the light. Sunlight through clouds is polarized light. Men can't see polarized light, but some animals can see it. To our eyes, all light is the same. On a day of cloud, our eyes tell us it's daytime. But where is the sun in the sky? We don't know. Some animals know. They look at the same sky, and the polarized light tells them It's daytime and the sun is halfway across the sky. These animals know the place of the sun behind the clouds. They can read its path across the sky, so they can find their way on days of cloud. The bee. One of these animals is a bee. A German scientist, Karl von Frisch, worked for a long time with bees. Every day, bees fly away from their home and look for flowers. Flowers give them their food. Sometimes a bee finds some very good flowers and wants to tell her friends about it. She comes back and jumps in front of them. Sometimes she jumps round and round. The food is near the house. Sometimes she runs in a little line, then wheels the end of her body round to the right and left. The food is far away. From the little run, the bee friends learn about the way to the good food place. The line of the jumper bee's body tells them about the path to the flowers. The bees can then fly along the same path and find the flowers. Sometimes, because of the clouds, the bee can't see the sun, but her eyes can see polarized light, so she knows the sun's place in the sky. Her friends want to know, are the flowers to the right or left of the sun? The line of the bee's little run tells her friends the answer to their question. Pigeons, blackcaps and blackpolls. Can birds, like bees, see polarized light? A German scientist, Gustav Kramer, wanted to find the answer. On days of sun, Kramer put some birds, they were pigeons, in a round cage out in the garden. He always put their food in the west of the cage. After a short time, the pigeons learned the way to the food place, so they always went to the same place for food. After some weeks, Kramer put more food in more places round the cage. But the pigeons still went to the same place. Pigeons learn their lessons well. Kramer said, "Perhaps the pigeons look at the trees in the garden and find the path to the food from them." So he changed the place of the cage in the garden. But the pigeons still went to the west for their food. Kramer said, "The pigeons look at the sun. Their body clocks tell them the time, so they find their way with the sun's help." Then he said, "Can pigeons find their way with the help of polarized light?" On a day without sun, Kramer put his pigeon cage out into the garden. He looked at the pigeons for a long time. Then he said, "The pigeons aren't going to the west for their food now. They're going to all the food places. Pigeons can't see polarized light." But that isn't the end of the story. Birds often fly at night, and there's no sun then. But there's often some light in the sky. It comes from the stars, lots of little balls of light in the black night sky. Sometimes we make pictures from the stars in the sky. Perhaps you know the names of some of these star pictures. One of them is like a W. Its name is Cassiopeia. All these little pictures make one big picture over our heads, the picture of the night sky. The picture isn't the same in every place in the world. It changes in every country. It changes through the night too. So you can tell the time with the help of the night sky. And if you know a lot of the world's star pictures, you can find your way through the world. Some birds can do that. In North Germany, one scientist, Dr. Sauer, worked with blackcaps. Every year, in October, blackcaps fly away from the cold country of Germany. They go to Egypt in North Africa. Then, in April, they fly back to Germany again. They always like to fly at night. Dr. Sauer put a lot of blackcaps in a big dark room without windows or doors. On the ceiling at the top of the room, he put a picture of the night sky over North Germany. Egypt is southeast of Germany. All the blackcaps went to the southeast of the room. Then Dr. Sauer changed the picture round on the ceiling. It was still the same picture, but it wasn't in the same place. Now the blackcaps went to the southeast of the picture. After that, Dr. Sauer changed the picture. It was now a picture of the night sky over Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia is southeast of Germany, and it's on the way to Egypt. The birds still went to the southeast of the picture. Dr. Sauer put up more pictures. Pictures of the night sky over Hungary, Bulgaria, Turkey. The birds still went to the southeast. Then he put up a picture of the night sky over the East Mediterranean Sea. The birds stopped and changed their path. Now they went south. Egypt is south of the East Mediterranean. The birds were on their way south to the sun. The last star picture was a picture of the night sky over the river Nile in Egypt. The birds looked at the picture and stopped. They were back home in the hot country of Egypt. Of course, the birds weren't in Egypt. They were still in the cold country of Germany. But that still isn't the end of the story. On nights of cloud, you can't see the stars. But the birds still fly. How do they do it? Perhaps the story of the blackpoll can give us some more answers. In the hot months of the year, the blackpoll lives in Alaska and North Canada. It's a small bird of 20 grams, but every year it flies 12,000 kilometers to the sun. It flies 5,000 kilometers across North America. Then it stops for a time on the North Atlantic coast. You can see it at places like Cape Cod in the United States and Halifax on the Canadian coast. It stops here for a week or two and eats a lot of food. It's putting more fat on its body for the long, cold days and nights in front of it. Now it must have help from the wind. With the cold weather, a wind comes from the northwest. It's going southeast over the Atlantic. The blackpoll wants to go southeast too, so the bird jumps into the wind, and the wind takes it far out to sea. With the cold weather comes a sky without cloud, so the bird finds its way with the help of the sun and the wind. Out at sea, the bird flies away from the northwest wind and goes south. It flies for 3 days and 3 nights and never comes down to land. There is no land. It's sea all the way for 2,000 kilometers. After perhaps 2 days and a night, it comes to a small island far out in mid-Atlantic. It's the island of Bermuda. But the blackpoll doesn't land there. It still flies south on its pathway to the sun. After Bermuda, it flies 2,000 kilometers and comes to the islands of Puerto Rico or the Antilles. But it doesn't stop at any of these islands. Then, after 3,000 more kilometers, it comes down to land in South America, perhaps in Brazil. It's home again. The black pole can't fly with the help of the sun, the wind and the stars all the way. Sometimes there are clouds in the sky and there's no wind. But the black pole still flies south. It flies with the help of a little box in its head. A Pathfinder box. Magnetic fields and lines. Look at this picture. These boys have magnets in their hands. The magnet touches small things like these. The things jump up onto the magnet and stop there. The magnet has a magnetic field around it. You can't see the magnetic field, but it's there. The lines of the magnetic field are all round the magnet. They run between the magnet's south end and its north end. The world is like a ball with a big magnet in it. So there's a magnetic field around the world. The lines of this field run between magnetic north and magnetic south. In this picture, you can see these lines around the world. Perhaps birds and animals know about these lines. Perhaps they can feel the lines with their bodies, so they can find their way round the world. One American scientist, William T. Keaton, wanted to find the answer. He worked with homer pigeons. You can take a homer pigeon a long way from home. The homer pigeon won't know the place, but he can still find his way home. He can do this on days and nights of cloud. William T. Keaton puts magnets on the heads of homer pigeons. The magnets, of course, have their magnetic field round them. The field of the magnet is near the pigeon's head. The magnetic field of the world is far away. The pigeon can feel the field of the magnet on its head, so he can't feel the world's magnetic field now. Keaton takes his pigeons a long way from home. He opens the pigeons' cages, and they all fly home on days of sun. But on days of cloud, they stop in the same place. They can't get home with the help of the world's magnetic field now. The magnets on their heads stop them. Without the magnets on their heads, they can find their way home. With them, they can't. So pigeons can find their way home with the help of the world's magnetic field. The Pathfinder box in their heads does this for them. But where is this Pathfinder box, and what is it? In 1979, scientists began to find answers to these questions. One scientist, Charles Walcott in New York, looked for Pathfinder boxes in pigeons. They're in the pigeons' heads, behind the eyes. They're very small. You can put 5 of them across the head of a match. And James Gould in Princeton, New Jersey, can find them in bees too. But the Pathfinder box isn't in the head of the bee. It's in its body. In the boxes, there's something with the name of magnetite. The magnetite feels the lines of the world's magnetic field, and so the birds can find their way round the world. Every day, scientists are finding new things about the world of animals and birds. Scientists can be pathfinders too.
Επιμέλεια Γιώργος Πιτροπογιαννάκης.